Hey, this is Rob Swanson with the Real Estate Mogul Show. Let's get into it. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Rob Swanson. We're back for another Real Estate Mogul Show. Hey, we've got some fun things to talk about here today. We're going to be diving in. I've got a few gentlemen sitting here in the studio with me, and they are going to make this fun and entertaining. We're going to get into some real estate conversation. We're going to talk about what they're doing, what we're doing, and what you can do. And so let's just do this. Before we kick into anything else, let's talk about who's sitting in the studio with us. And for those of you that can see the screen and are not just listening via audio, we do have someone in the studio that doesn't speak English as well, and that is Edgar, and he's sitting on the couch in the middle there. Edgar is our little office mascot, little purebred schnauzer that has been shaved recently. He's trying to grow back and get back looking like a respectable little male.
How old is Edgar?
Edgar's about 2 years and 4 months, so yeah, he's still kind of puppyish.
Yeah.
Well, let's do this, guys. Let's just introduce who we've got in the studio, and let's start it on my left on the couch. And take it away, Mr. Henry.
Yeah, so I'm Henry. Some of you may have spoken to me a couple times. I run the customer-facing side of FreedomSoft, so support, success, a little bit of coaching stuff. So if you've heard any of the training videos or onboarding stuff, you've probably heard my voice, and then the guy to my left, Mike, you've probably heard his voice as well.
Awesome. Yeah, so let me just jump in. Henry, you've been around here for a couple of years. We're gonna talk about all of our journeys, but we're gonna talk about your journey, because over the last couple of years, when you joined the team, you had no background on real estate investing or in real estate investing. You had a software background, and you had a customer success, like helping people win, background, but not a real estate background. And we're going to dive into that, but I'm excited to hear more about that journey from your perspective. I can see it from my point of view, but it'll be fun to share your point of view as well. And then over to Mike. Mike, take it away. Talk to us about who you are.
Taking it away. Yeah, so I've been around here for a while. Let's see, Rob, we go back to pre-2008, been working together since, I think it was May 1st, 2008. So
That's right.
I've worn a number of hats in addition to the one I'm wearing today around here, which would be acquisitions early on. We got back together with the FreedomSoft project, and still a big part of that. And so, active investor since '08, and now learning about software on quite a journey. So I wear quite a few hats around here. Work on the support side, do some coaching, work with Henry on success, and
Here's what I think. I think Henry will have no problem self-promoting. Mike doesn't always self-promote as much as he is qualified to self-promote. And so what I just want to jump in and say, number one, Joe, we're going to get to you in a second, but flip over the screen here, show what we're looking at on the big screen, because this takes us back to 2009. This is a picture from 2009. So, Mike, we were about a year into running the fund back in 2009. This was in the office back then. That's Mike with the blue hat. That's me standing there looking down at our previous
Pre-Edgar.
office. Yeah, pre-Edgar office mascot, which was Greta. And so, yeah, Mike, we've been around for a long time, go back a long way. And you do a lot of the real estate investor / software combo coaching that we do for all of our FreedomSoft users. So that'll be fun to jump into that too.
Yeah, that's been a really fun project. Just real quick, is we've basically done a renovation on a software, right, with FreedomSoft.
That's right.
And so I've sat and still do sit on the side of the investor's perspective. What does the software need to be to support what real estate investors do day in and day out?
Yep.
So.
Yep. Awesome. And to my left over here, running the box and making sure that everything comes through with crisp, clean audio and video effects. Joe, take it away.
That's right. Joe Swanson. I'm Rob's brother. I moved out here about a year and a half ago now, and I was working real estate, wholesaling, and we were in a couple markets, and recently had the opportunity to sort of step up into this role and do content here, and excited to run this podcast and help showcase like the stuff that you have going on and your education and just the systems that are in place that obviously, as you guys will hear later with Henry's story, like are life-changing. So yeah, it's real exciting to be here.
Awesome. Well, welcome into the studio, all of you guys. This is going to be super fun. You know, one of the things that I like to think about as we think about doing these shows and coming into the studio and talking about it is a previous episode. I talked about proximity, and we walk up and down the halls, you know, here at the FreedomSoft office, and nobody leaves at the end of the day and says, I wonder if real estate investing works. Even if they're not actively doing it yet or are not actively doing it by choice, they don't walk around saying, I wonder if real estate investing is a path to financial freedom and a path to wealth, because they see it happening by those of us that do participate and do take action. And the proximity, being around that is key. And, you know, one of the fun things that we get to do with this studio setup and this show is we get to invite people into that conversation and bring people into the hallway conversations that we have on a regular basis, and let somebody that lives anywhere in the world come into the office here and get exposed to the conversations that we have. And so that brings me to Henry, you know, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, roughly, when you joined the team. You did not have exposure to real estate investing or what real estate investing can do for you. And as one of our core values, I'm a big believer in teaching the team how to build wealth. And give us a little perspective from your point of view, Henry, when you first came in here and you started to hear different language and different things, and you saw the world maybe from a different lens. How did that change your worldview and perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I was coming from the SaaS side of the industry, you know, work a W-2. That company has a 401k. It throws some money into that 401k, and real estate to me was, you know, eventually you save enough money to buy the house that you live in, and that is investing, right? Or that was buying a house. And then even at that point, like buying a house to me was you go and hire a realtor, you go on Zillow.com and you find the one that you like, and then you buy it and you live in it. And that's pretty much it. Now, obviously, you know, people own multiple things of property, like beach vacation rentals and Airbnbs and stuff like that. But the whole off-market wholesaling, just real estate investing, rental side of the business, and even fix and flips, no idea what that was coming in 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, I had seen fix and flippers on HGTV, stuff like that, but no idea how they got those deals or what that even looked like. And honestly, at the time of joining, I didn't really care. Because I obviously I didn't know what it was, so I didn't really want to research any of that. But then, you know, coming into FreedomSoft to grow the software side, it's not hard to be around those people and those conversations. And just my personality, I'm super interested in just asking as many questions as I can. Even if I'm not interested, I want to know as much about that topic as possible. Yep. And then it just so happened that at that time, you had started doing that class with all of the employees here at FreedomSoft, where you were just teaching real estate and then giving us the opportunity, you know, if we wanted to or not, just to at least learn about it and see what that looked like. And I think walking away just from a couple of those classes, I just started asking myself, what would that look like for me? And the entry level to that was to wholesale, just to learn about deal analysis, being on the phone with sellers, making offers, and then, you know, building networking and connections with the buyer side of things. Mm-hmm. And then kind of just my personality again, just dove all the way into it. Like, I'm just going to try it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But just the wholesaling side of it, being on the phone, being, the salesmanship of it, that's my personality anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it wasn't like I was in an area that I wasn't used to.
Yep.
It was just a new industry,
Yeah.
really.
Well, you said a couple things, right? You said that your personality was ask a lot of questions, and that's one of the core components of success in almost everything in life. Is you don't have to know everything. You just have to figure out who does know it and how can you ask your way to success. And I know, you asked me a lot of questions along the journey, and we're going to get like where you started from then and where you are now is like, I can't tell you how exciting it is for me to sit where I sit and observe zero knowledge to where you are today. And we'll dive more into that. But you also asked Mike a lot of questions. And
At least 4.
At least 4 questions.
Well, we talk about proximity. It's like I can either get out of my office and walk to the other side of the office, or I can walk out of my door and peek in the left and ask him the question, just out of pure laziness of just not wanting to walk all the way down to your.
Okay, so Rob, can I just relocate?
Yeah. Yeah. You want to come down where I'm at, Mike? So
yeah, actually, if I could go further south, that'd be great.
Well, this is the funny thing from a proximity standpoint, Mike. For the last 15 years, our offices have been less than 10, 12 feet apart.
Yeah.
So
we're as far apart now as we've ever been.
That's what I'm saying. You're on one side of the office and I'm on the other side of the office. And it's never been that way in 15 years. And we've always been relatively close. But so here's where I wanted to go with this. Henry, you were asking questions. I want to hear, Mike, from your perspective, how did you approach answering the questions? Because here's a guy who sat in the class that I taught for our team members.
Yep.
Who was like awakening to the opportunities of real estate. And he's like, how do I tackle this? And I know you do this a lot of times with new FreedomSoft users through our Kickstart programs and various things that you coach and work with our users on. But you have a framework that you give people that is pretty simple and straightforward, at least when their feet hit the floor and they wake up on a day, the blueprint that says, how should I be thinking about success today? Talk through that a little bit. And was that a piece of your education and help with Henry?
Yeah, I haven't given Henry an answer that we haven't given anybody that we've coached over the years.
Yeah.
Just because why would you when that's the way we think about real estate and the right way to
and it works
to think about it. And it works. And so Henry had a lot of big picture questions. How does this work? What is lending? And so, same answers. We just break it down. Here's what a bank loan looks like, and here's what private money looks like, and
everything
here's kind of what's in between. Yeah, portfolio lenders, hard money lenders, and that kind of thing. So we were just talking about it the other day. He actually downloaded a financial calculator onto his phone while we were sitting having a conversation, because he came into my office and originally said, hey, if I financed X amount on a 4-pack of rentals, what would the payment look like? And so, Rob, when you and I met, I was in the mortgage business. And while I hated that industry while I was in it, the carryover from that, how lending works, especially traditional lending, and then how to calculate a payment, because I did that 1,000 times a day. It's been extremely valuable. I've really learned to appreciate it, even though I didn't enjoy that industry while I was in it. I've really learned to appreciate it. But with Henry specifically, he's had some, bigger overarching questions, which are really common with new investors. How does this work? Why do you do it? And then some tactical stuff. I remember one day, so Rob, you have a script that's with all of our coaching programs, right? You've called it the one call close script forever. This was a really funny day, but I specifically remember this. Henry, he got interested, then he sent out some direct mail, and he generated a lead, and he comes down to my office, and he goes, Mike, I generated a lead. She wants me to call her back tomorrow at 4:00. What do I say? Which is a great newbie question. I literally slacked him the same script. And I said, read this over a few times tonight, get familiar with it, call her back tomorrow at 4 o'clock and read it. Right? Rehearse it a little bit so it doesn't sound like you're reading it. Call her back and read it.
Yep.
And that's what he did. And on that deal, he didn't put it under contract, but he got it all the way. And this thing was a turd. Industry
If this was the first one I'm thinking about, yeah.
Very first.
Yeah.
She was willing to sell it to him for $5,000, but it wasn't worth him paying $5,000 for it. It was destroyed.
Yeah.
But the point being, you asked me, how did I answer questions? I answered them the same way we answer everybody's question. And so this was a very tactical type answer, but call her back, read this script. He got it all the way down to she would sell him the house for $5,000. Now, he didn't agree to buy it for that. He wanted to buy it for $100.
Yeah.
She didn't agree to that. But the point being, it was the same answer.
Well, and
I gave Henry the same answers.
And sometimes it's not even that you need to buy it for $100 or even buy it for $10 or even buy it for $1. In order for me to take on your problem, Mr. Seller, you would have to write me a check for $10,000. Sometimes that's just the way the math works out. And people have a hard time sometimes wrapping their head around the fact that someone could give you a house and it would not be worth taking. That's crazy to most people, but it's very true.
It's very true.
Now, so let's go into that playbook, because there's 4 things that I know you tell people all the time to be thinking about, Mike. Walk people through that, because that's a big piece. There's components in each of the 4, but let's start with the big picture.
Yeah, we call it the playbook. This was organic. We didn't sit down one day and say, hey, we need a handful of questions to ask people on a daily basis. This came over, years of coaching and working with people, and now we call it the playbook. And the playbook goes like this. Number 1, who am I marketing to today? Right? The catalyst that gets everything in motion. And this is no different if you own a sandwich shop. This is what Coca-Cola does. Everybody on the planet, if you're breathing, you know who Coca-Cola is, but they haven't stopped marketing.
Right.
So this is no different for investors, right? We're not selling beverages. Our commodity is real estate, but it's no different. So question number 1 in the playbook, who am I marketing to today? It's the catalyst that gets everything else moving. Number 2, and I'll just rip through the playbook here quick.
Yep.
Number 2, who am I following up with today, right? And Rob, it kind of cracks me up. You and I, we're wired completely different. You track everything. I inherently don't, just because of how we're wired. I track a lot of stuff now because we've been working together for a long time, but you gave me a stat years ago, 2/3. Here's the stat. You told me this over a decade ago. 2/3 of the deals you've closed have come through some form of follow-up in 25 years.
Yep.
So we've all heard the fortunes in the follow-up. Everybody's heard that statement. Let's put a number to it, 2/3. And the way you worded it to me was 2/3 of the deals that you've closed have come through follow-up, which translates to 2/3 of the money you've made has come through some form of follow-up.
That's right.
So number 2 in the playbook is who am I following up with today? Number 3 in the playbook is who am I talking to today? So when you start to do numbers 1 and 2 consistently, you will be in conversation with sellers, right?
Yep.
So that's number 3. And then number 4 is who am I making an offer to? I think experienced investors get this. New investors have a hard time getting their head around this. The most important thing in your business is making consistent offers. But you can't just tell, I can't just tell Henry. He goes, if Henry comes into my office and says, hey, Mike, I want to try wholesaling. What do I do? And I was like, just make offers. He would have just left there going, what? I don't even know what that means. To who? How does this work? So the playbook builds. Number 1 is marketing. Number 2 is follow-up. Number 3 is talking to sellers, which allows you the opportunity to then make offers.
That's right.
And so it came organically. And I think I was on a Kickstart call, which we still do. And I noticed myself at the end of that call, we're teaching the same stuff because there's a recipe to this. There's a formula, right? And it turned into 4 simple questions just out of nowhere. And Rob, I walked down, you were down here in your office, and I walked down and I was like, hey, I think I came up with something. This is the same stuff we're doing anyway, but let's call it a playbook. And it's 4 simple questions that guide your daily activity as an investor. And that's, that's what Henry started to do.
Well, if we start to break down what you're talking about, right? Who am I marketing to today? what list am I targeting? What problem am I trying to solve, right? Real estate investors are always asking about, hey, what's the hottest list? What's the best list? The one that you market to, right?
That's exactly right.
That is
Hear
the answer.
That question now weekly.
Yeah, you get that question all the time, right? And it's not that it's a magic list. What the list does do is help you get into conversations with people that are likely more motivated. And then depending on what your objective is, whether you want to wholesale for cash or whether you want to acquire for a fix and flip or whether you want to buy and hold to build your portfolio in rentals, the geographic targeting of that list matters oftentimes from an exit strategy perspective. And so if we take that back, who am I marketing to today and who am I following up with today? That first lead you generated, Henry, just taught you something. You didn't make any money from it. It didn't turn into a deal. But I know we've got a picture up on the screen here that we can throw up that was the first deal you closed on.
This one's not the first.
Okay.
This one was actually a few months ago, and the reason why I brought this one up was for another reason. But on that point, a lot of first-time investors, and even me at that point, I said, I sent this direct mail, I spent this much money, I got X amount of leads, and the first phone call, I'm super psyched about it, and I'm disappointed that I couldn't close the deal off of this house. But, now looking back, you spend $500, whatever amount of money on direct mail, and that was a good investment on that, because the knowledge that you gain on just the conversation, the first one, you've got across the board, and that's the hardest one for a lot of people.
Yep.
To build that confidence. So to pay X amount of money in marketing just to get that lead, I think was a good move, because the next one got better, and then you close a deal, and then now you're at this certain point where you have like this layer of confidence that you've already gotten to.
Yep.
And just the knowledge that I gained on making the calculation, making the offer, knowing what you can pay, so that if you are planning on wholesaling, you are at a good spot to where you're not like biting yourself, basically.
Yeah.
And on that note, like, you're through every lead that you generate, you're learning more and more about that market that you're in, and you're meeting more and more people. So it stacks on itself. So by the time you're on your 10th round of marketing or 20th round of marketing, you're light years ahead of that first run that you did.
Yep.
Because now you know way more people. You know exactly who you're going to be calling or reaching out to after you get that deal under contract. And that's where the follow-up really comes into play.
Yep.
I mean, when you stack enough in your pipeline, and let's just say you have marketing out that you're waiting on getting back, you may have just met a new buyer last week that one of your old contracts that didn't renegotiate, you can go and call that buyer and say, I actually have something for you. And now you have someone to follow up with today, because you've stacked so much on top of each other.
Yep.
And I mean, I really wouldn't have gotten to that point without that first piece of marketing.
Yeah. And so if somebody, go ahead, Mike, you got something to say.
I was going to throw in a quick story from a Kickstarter we had last year. I was talking about consistency in marketing. What happens, especially with newer investors, is they send out a round of marketing and they get a result, and then they oftentimes think, well, this didn't work for any number of reasons. They can't see down road yet. So Henry just made a point where it starts to stack up. So I have a Kickstarter real quick, and I'm talking about consistency in marketing. And she chimes in to the call, this live call, and she goes, hey, I got a quick story. She goes, I sold a property about a year ago to a wholesaler. And she said, I was getting direct mail, but one person kept sending me the same postcard over and over and over. And she said, I kept them all in a drawer by my refrigerator. And she said, when I was ready to sell, I pulled out the marketing and I figured out who had sent me the most. And that's the person I called and sold in my house.
Yeah.
And so she was the living example of consistency in marketing. Back to Coca-Cola. We all know who Coke is. They don't quit marketing to us.
That's right.
So the initial marketing result, I'm not going to say it's irrelevant, because it's a big deal, especially for new investors, to push marketing out. It's a big milestone.
Yep.
But don't get stuck on just the result of that one mailer. It's consistent, proper action compounded over time. The playbook does not say, number one, go send marketing one time. it says, number one, who am I marketing to today? That question
Every
never
day.
goes away. That's
Every
right.
day.
And if you're sending direct mails, for instance, on a 30-day cycle, you're not going to answer that question, or you're going to know the answer. It's not that you have to push out a new round of direct mail every single day, but the fact is, when you're consistent with it, you know, when I wake up tomorrow, I'm sending direct mail to people.
Well, and what you just hit on is why we made recent changes in FreedomSoft. Like, the number one source of marketing that has made me more money and closed me more deals in my 20 plus years as a real estate investor than anything else consistently, without government intervention, without regulation, without something coming and going away, and I've done just about everything, is direct mail. Mm-hmm. Now, the only thing that rivals it was through the crash of 2008, when we were buying directly from banks, and all of that distressed inventory was literally listed online and available publicly. There was so much inventory that during that time, it was literally make hundreds of offers, but direct mail from a marketing perspective. And so where I want to go with this is we recently released FreedomSoft's brand new Mail Now system. And we are big proponents, because it is what has worked for me for 20 some years, in direct mail. And direct mail, Mike, as you were just pointing out, the connection that I want to make is, if somebody gets on a every 30-day rhythm, we would call that event-based or time-based marketing. And so what has to happen is somebody builds a list, they send out direct mail, they wait 30 days, they work those leads, they do their deals, they wait 30 days, they add to that list, they update that list, they send direct mail again, they work those leads. And that is what we would call event-based marketing. So we decided to kind of throw the marketing world on its head as it relates to direct mail, and said, what if we created a sequence-based direct mail system fully integrated into the CRM? Because you guys, talking to real estate investors all the time, we're hearing it's hard to update my lists. It's hard to stay consistent. It's hard to remember. It's hard to do all of these things that are event-based. And then you're like, oh, I don't know what list I have, and I got this spreadsheet that I exported from my CRM, and I sent it over to my direct mail house, and it becomes a cluster, right? And people just don't know what to do. And so we said, let's set out to create a system that allows you to literally drop records into a bucket, into a mail sequence, and let that thing go on autopilot. So it connects, who am I marketing to today? Every day you can wake up, you can look at your CRM, you can analyze properties, and you can say, you know what? Let's add that one to my marketing sequence bucket today, and direct mail automatically goes out, one record at a time. The next day, or later that day, you ask, who am I following up with today? You literally have follow-up being done on autopilot, so you don't have to remember it anymore. So one of the things that we try to do at FreedomSoft is eliminate the human error that goes into real estate investing as much as possible, and give people tools that take them towards success, whether they know what step to take or not.
Yeah, that's the key. And you said human error, that's part of it. And some of it is, I'm just going to make this statement, because we started working together May of 2008. I got involved with coaching in, 90 or 120 days after that, and have been ever since around here. There isn't one person that we put into coaching who hasn't been derailed by a life event. Not one. So whatever it is about life, when you put your mind to it and say, here's where I'm at today and I'm going there, something, many things, a lot of things are going to jump in your way. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things to get derailed are these simple questions in the playbook. And the way I explain it to people is, the playbook is simple in conversation. Go implement it consistently over time and watch all the things that get in your way. And 100% of them have life happen. And so back to your point with the system of direct mail that FreedomSoft now has, is you can set it up one time and just let it go. And it doesn't matter what life gets in your way, your marketing is on autopilot.
That's
and
right.
when you have consistent outbound marketing, ask Coca-Cola. When you have consistent outbound marketing, you have consistent inbound leads and sales.
And that's key.
It's totally key.
That's key.
You can't let go of marketing. The other thing it does is I've always referred to it as the investor roller coaster. You push out marketing, you generate some leads, you get some properties under contract, but then they take up all your time. So then you forget to market. And then you work, let's say you put, 2 or 3 under contract, and now you work to get those through to closing. It's typical, you're not going to close 100% of them. So maybe you get all 3 to the closing table, maybe you close 2 of them, and then you say, hey, that was killer. And then you look at your pipeline and it's dry. Now it looks like a desert.
Yep.
How do you fix that?
Right.
Consistent marketing.
That's right.
And so, right, with back to the new system is I can literally take 1 record, 10 records, 100 records, 1,000 records, and you can put them into the marketing system, which we call a sequence, and you don't have to even think about it again.
Yep.
You want to put new records into the sequence, but as soon as you start it, it just goes.
Yep.
And then you're just focused on the inbound leads that are coming in.
Yep.
It solves the consistent marketing.
Well, take that consistent marketing piece, right? And apply it to Henry's situation, right? One of the things that you learned early on was consistency in marketing is what will produce results. Mm-hmm. And there's a skill component and there's an effort component, right? Skill has to increase over time. Effort has to be consistent. You got to do the work. But the effort becomes easier as the skill increases. Mm-hmm. And the skill increases by failing forward sometimes. So, Henry, you did direct mail the event-based way, and you've now been doing direct mail the sequence-based way. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about the ease of where that puts you from a running your business perspective.
Yeah, I mean, what he just said was me, right? I would hit a hot list, or I would get a good amount of leads that would have me in my spare time on the phone, making offers, getting deals under contract. And, Joe, like if you have 5 things under contract and you're trying to scramble, logistically getting people to go look at those, working with the title company, like you're not really mentally thinking about getting on a phone with another seller. I mean, I've been in situations between FreedomSoft, the wholesaling, and the other stuff. Is like I don't have time to get on the phone with a seller right now because I really want to get these 5 deals across the finish line. But when those do get off the finish line, you log back into FreedomSoft and you're like, man, I really did forget to send marketing, or I haven't even built a list in 20 days, 30 days. I got to get on it. And then, there's a waiting period between that. So now with the sequence thing, you have your list, you have your people that you need to be following up with. And I don't have to remember or remind myself in 30 days to send mail to new people. All I have to do is I know that the people that I already mailed once that didn't convert are going to get mailed twice today, for example. And then really, if I need to increase that size of marketing, I'll just go rerun the list that I know works for me, grab the 400, 500, 1,000 new people that are now hitting that distress, and just add them into the same sequence. And now they're starting at step 1 while everyone else is in step 2 and potentially step 3, however you want to build that sequence. Mine is 3 steps across 90 days, really, and 3 different postcards. Yep. And that's it. And now I don't have to remember. Now, step 2 has not happened yet because we just launched this recently. So step 1 has been out. I've gotten leads from step 1. Now the people that are leads won't get step 2. And then the rest of the people will get step 2 in a few more weeks. Yeah.
Well, people always talk about wanting to automate their business, mm-hmm. right? Perfect scenario. You just said in your spare time trying to do this. And I don't want to give away the punchline because we'll talk about your journey and your story, but you're wholesaling consistently. So there's the cash generation component of what we teach in our 5-step path to building wealth through real estate. Number 1, you have a cash generation component to your business, which is wholesaling. Number 2, you've actually started to acquire and build your rental portfolio. Mm-hmm. And that has come because of the cash generation strategy that you've employed, and then said, wait a minute, I don't want to just be active all the time. I want to actually start to build some passive, consistent, recurring revenue. And so if we back up and think about what were the things that you had to think about before? People always want automation in their business, right? At FreedomSoft, we teach people to organize before you automate. And if you are organized, automation becomes pretty simple. So to your point, you build a list, and let's say that you've done it the way you've done it. You've logged into FreedomSoft, you've used Lead Finder, you've built a list, you put it into a list on your CRM dashboard, and you add those records into a direct mail sequence. And let's say that's a 5-step sequence that has been automatically set to repeat. Those records, those prospects on that list are going to get direct mail over the next 5 months. And then it's going to start over and repeat. So 6 months, it's just going to keep going until you manage those records out of that list, right?
Yep.
That's number one. Number two, you get 30 days downfield, and you go to Lead Finder and you say, hey, I'm going to update my list. And so you go build a new list. You add it into the list inside your CRM with a push of a button. FreedomSoft automatically recognizes this 1,000 records are already on my list, but these 280 are brand new. Then you get to set automation that could automatically subscribe that to your sequence, and now everything is updated. It becomes so simple, you didn't have to think about anything.
And at the same time, 30 days has gone by, so I've learned more information on the market that I'm in that I knew 30 days before that.
That's right.
So I'm filtering into my current list and all the other ones, but at the same time, I learned about 3 new zip codes that I found out investors are in, but I haven't been marketing to those zip codes of those counties. I found out, investors are moving outside of the major county in the city, and they're looking for flips on the suburbs on the outside. But I haven't even built a list there. Right? I haven't even marketed to that. So again, you're marketing consistently to that one area, but as you are, because it's almost impossible not to be talking to people as you're generating leads in your pipeline. You're going to be just organically around people and talking to people, whether it's on the seller or buyer side. So now you've developed new techniques and new strategies around that market that you're diving into that maybe other investors haven't gotten to that point. So you've kind of hit that honey spot that we talk about.
Well, one of the things that I teach people to, I know Mike talks about it a lot, I know you talk about it a lot to people, is just the strategy of why does wholesaling fit into an experienced investor's game, right? And the recent rental that you bought you bought it using the cash from the wholesale flips you did the month before.
Well, it was one deal. It was Ohio right here on the screen.
Okay, so we've got it up on the screen. So you flipped this house wholesale, this little duplex, and you made some money, cash generation. Then you took that cash and you leveraged it into acquiring a rental property in the next month.
Yeah. So kind of the strategy that I just gradually dropped myself into, because I wholesaled all of 2022. I averaged 1 to 2 deals per month. Just, we're talking spare time here.
While working a part-time job in software, serving customers every day.
Yeah. 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. I work for you at FreedomSoft, and
Rob, you said part-time,
full-time job,
full time. Don't get me wrong, it's not a part time; it's full time. And
we see when you leave.
So yeah, I mean that's why direct mail is so good for me. Right now, if I had more time, over a year, I know in my head if I wanted to go from 1 to 3 deals to 5 to 10 deals per month. I know what other investors are doing to get to that deal flow. So I could turn it on at any point, right? But with this one, this came at the end or at the start of 2023. So I'd already averaged 1 to 2 deals per month in 2022. And even in 2022 into December, I did not go into 2023 thinking of buying in the next year. I was like, I'm making money, I'm having fun, I'm just going to continue wholesaling. But at the same time, you know, it could be a grind to
Yep.
get to 1 to 2 deals, and trying to manage that with, you know, a full-time job.
Yep.
You know, I started thinking, you know, what would it look like if I went a little bit more on the passive side, kind of repeat what you do.
Yep.
So I had already built up an egg, basically, of wholesales that was doing nothing, right?
Yep.
So
cash, you generated cash.
Cash, yeah. Into an LLC that was basically growing. The only thing expenses-wise out of that was software, education, and marketing, right? Nothing else.
Yep.
So it was just growing. For every wholesale deal that I did, it would just grow. And you know, come to this deal in the beginning of 2023, I was actually talking to Joe about this. At this time, I was still marketing to vacant list in this market, and my sweet spot on direct mail was kind of what we teach: 1,000 to 2,000 plus people. We like to be at least the 1,000 mark to get in contact with as many people as we
From
can.
a list
From
size.
From a list size, yeah,
Yep.
the prospects. And I was short that mailing run that I needed to be in. I was short about 500, I think, maybe a little bit more. And at the time, I had a tired landlord list that I built in this area that I knew I wanted to be in, and I wasn't doing anything with it. So I rebuilt it, got the new ones, and it was huge, massive, 3,000 plus people. But I only needed 500. So I went to FreedomSoft. I made a little placeholder group folder, and all I did was I went page by page and got to the 500 that I needed to filter into the rest of the vacants, so I would get to my sweet spot number. So there were still thousands of people that weren't going to get hit. It just so happens that the owner of this property, Ohio, was part of the first 5 pages that I selected, and I got some leads from the vacants, but this ended up being my biggest deal ever. And it came from that tired landlord list that, you know, I was just nonchalantly going and grabbing some people just to fill up the vacants, which is hilarious. But
How much did you make on it?
I made 15,000 on this deal.
Nice.
So I had this under contract for 76. ARV in this area. This is a really popular area for duplexes and converting multifamily to single family, and those conversion flips were going ARV 300 plus. They were making really
for
nice.
those that don't know what ARV is,
After repair value. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after the fix up, what it's worth or what it's going to sell for on the open market at that time of this deal flipping of conversion would have been 300 plus. Keeping it as a duplex would still be in the 250 to 280 mark from what I could gather.
Yep.
So
Did the buyer convert it to a single family?
they did not.
They left it
Their
a
plan
duplex?
is leaving it as a duplex.
So you had it under contract for 76. You flipped your contract for 15,000.
91
assignment of $15,000. And what was the repair estimate?
So the repair estimate, so this one was interesting because the top unit, the pictures that you were just showing, Joe, the top unit was vacant. The bottom unit was actually occupied. So I actually don't have pictures of the bottom unit. Funny enough, the original investor that bought this from me told me not to send my guy out there to take pictures because they wanted to look at it first. And they said, if we don't want it, we'll send you the pictures of the property that when we were there. I never even saw the first unit because they called me right after they walked it and said that they would take it. So I don't know what the rented out unit looks like, but it was rented. Long-time tenant. They had no plans of getting that guy out of there. He was paying. Lease was till 2024. That bottom unit needed a little work, and they were going to negotiate with him to move him into the top unit, fix up the bottom unit, and then rent that out. That was their plan.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I haven't talked to them, but that was their plan.
It
Hey, real
doesn't
quick.
look bad. The pictures don't look bad. Like you gave him a sweetheart deal.
Yeah, no, I did. I initially.
Yeah, it's a good looking property.
Initially, the roof was updated, the systems were updated. It's being lived in. the tenant in the top unit had flipped out 6 months prior. So that needed a cleaning, probably cosmetic touch-up paint, all the the sweep through stuff. It needed an updated kitchen. I estimated, just from talking to the seller, we had estimated around $15,000 of rehab to get it rent ready again. And this is in a really good area. This is a 2-1 up top, a 2-1 down bottom. Rents for $1,000 plus in that market, in that neighborhood. So,
hey Henry, I mean, you got this one because your marketing brought it in. But of the 3 properties listed, why do you want the one in the middle most?
why do I want the one in the middle the most?
Yep.
This is a trick question.
This is a legit question.
I feel like I should know this, but I don't know this.
Pitched roof.
Oh, I was gonna say a flat roof.
Those
flat
2
roof
flat
on the
roofs
side,
on either side,
Yeah.
while they look really cool,
Yeah.
over time, cost you 3 times what that pitched roof will cost.
Yep.
Because this is in. Oh, I was going to bring in. This is in St.
This
Louis.
is in St. Louis. So this is a pitch roof on the front. It flattens out in the back, though. It does flatten out. in the
Okay,
back.
so it's got some expensive part.
Yeah.
But we need to add this into the story. Somebody listening might be thinking, well, Henry, why didn't you just go over and see the house?
Yeah. I don't.
A plane ride away.
I'm nowhere near this house. I've never seen this house. And again, kind of to rewind, that was one of the biggest hurdles that I could not wrap my head around in the beginning. Like I'm in Colorado right now, and you want me to virtually make an offer on a house that's worth $200,000, and you're telling me I'm never gonna put my feet on the ground at that property, let alone
You will likely never see this house in your life.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
People can't wrap their
Which
head
is
around
totally
that.
cool.
But people have a hard time wrapping their head around that.
Yeah, that's why we need to
here's
point
the
it out.
point. You left potentially money on the table. I think you could have got a lot more than
Yep.
$15,000 flipping this deal. But you look back and you say, okay, so what?
Yep.
Right? You can always, if you leave enough meat on the bone,
Yep.
you will always win in this business.
Well, that's not what I had it out there for sale for. I had it for sale at maybe 96 or 99. Like I did it right under 100 was where I wanted to go.
Yep.
But I mean, this was after 2022, a year of grinding and wholesaling, getting nitpicked on price, making sure I was here and there.
Yep.
What I did learn is the time I saved on the fast, easy deals with the legit buyers. I'll take a haircut on that all day if it means that I don't have to stress about it for another week.
Yep.
And just get the deal across the finish line. So if you're telling me I found a legit buyer that I knew had done flips and had rentals, I saw their finished work, and they were interested in seeing my under contract deal, and they had an offer on the phone with me right after they walked it at 91, take it.
Yep.
Happy to give it to you, because
Yep.
that buyer will buy more from me in the
Oh,
future.
heck yeah.
So
For sure they will.
yeah.
Yeah, leave greed elsewhere.
Yeah.
Go,
Well, guys,
go get paid.
let's do this. I think this is a fun conversation. We're going to get into sort of step 2 of the journey in our next episode, where we start to talk about, okay, what does it look like to generate cash and use that cash to acquire cash flow and get into all of those things. But I want to circle us back as we wrap. We've all said it in different ways throughout this show, and that is the number one thing that any real estate investor can do to create their own success is to make offers. And most of the time, people are afraid to make an offer. Either they believe they don't have enough leads, or they believe they don't know how to talk to a seller, or they believe they don't understand the paperwork, or they believe that there's some risk involved, and they don't get to the step of actually making an offer. If you're not making offers, you're not making money. It's as simple as that. So when people say to me, hey, Rob, I'm doing all of these things. I'm consistent. I'm blah, blah, blah. All of the things they say. And they say, but I'm not making any money. I ask them one question. How many offers did you make last week? And the reason I'm bringing this up, guys, is because you know what we're doing. We're about to run the 100 Offer Challenge. And we're about to show people, whether they're brand new in this business, whether they're experienced in this business, we're about to show people how to consistently make 100 offers a week. Intelligent offers, well-calculated offers, offers that get accepted, offers that solve problems, and offers that produce profits. You guys wouldn't be sitting in the positions that you're sitting in today if you didn't make offers. And you wouldn't be sitting in the positions to set yourself up for the future if you didn't make offers. And the number one thing that we see people struggle with is making offers. And so we're going to run the 100 offer challenge. And what I would tell people to do if they're interested in joining this, we're going to do it absolutely free. There's no cost to it. You can step in, you can go through. We're going to take you for 5 days through our process of making offers and systematizing that entire process. Where if you're working a full-time job, you can do this. If you're a full-time real estate investor and want to take your business to the next level, you can do this. If you have a team member or teams that you're trying to feed with deal flow, you can do this. We're going to show people exactly what works and take them hand by hand, day by day, over 5 days, and show people how to make 100 offers. And it's the 100 offer challenge. We're super excited. We're going to do some really cool and unique things throughout that process. And so for those folks that are interested in joining us in this challenge, go to freedomsoft.com/join the challenge. Go to freedomsoft.com/join the challenge. Sign up. It's absolutely free, and come along with us for the ride. It's going to be a blast.
Love it. This will be
Amazing.
life-changing.
Yeah, that's going to be incredible.
All right, guys. Great show. A lot of fun. That's a wrap. We'll see everybody in the next one.
See ya.
Bye. Yeah.